Hello YouTube, this is Bloodfinger here yet again with another video, and today I'd like to talk a little bit more about Satanism. And if you don't want to hear what I have to say, feel free to click off the video. Satanism is all about the self. It's built upon the self. And today, I'm going to read a chapter from the Satanic Bible. And just another reminder that Satanism is not about devil worship at all. It's not about devil worship at all. It's an atheistic religion that believes in the self. That you yourself are your own God. You are your own person. You are your own embodiment of life. I'm going to read the 9 satanic statements, and if you don't want to continue this video, feel free to click off of it. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it, instead of love wasted on ingrates. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for fucking psychic fucking vampires. Okay, there was no swearing in that, but I decided to swear because it's my fucking channel. Number 7. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better or more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who because of his divine, spiritual, and intellectual development has become the most vicious animal of all. Number 8. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, and emotional gratification. Number 9. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he had kept it in business all these years. I gotta go to the chapter I'm on. Well, it was on. Here we go. God wanted, dead or alive. It is a popular misconception that the Satanist does not believe in God or the concept of God as interpreted by man has been so varied throughout the ages that the Satanist simply accepts definition which suits him best. Man has always created his gods rather than his gods creating him. God is to some benign, to others as terrifying. To the Satanist, God by what? The balancing factor in nature, and not as being concerned with suffering. This powerful force which permeates the balances the universe is far impersonal to care about the happiness or misery of the flesh and blood creatures on this ball of dirt which we live. Anyone who thinks of Satan as evil should consider all the men, women, and children and animals who have died because it was God's will. Certainly a person grieving the untimely loss of a loved one should much rather have the loved one with them than in God's hands. Instead, they are unctuously consoled. I'm having trouble reading this word. Consoled by their clergyman who says, "It was God's will, my child, my dear," or he's in God's hands now, my son. such phrases have been convenient way for religionists to condone or excuse the mercilessness of God. But if God is in complete control, as is benign as he is supposed to be, why does he allow these things to happen? Too long have religionists been falling back on their Bibles and rule books to prove their disprove, justify, condone, or interpret. I'm having trouble with saying that word, excuse me. The Satanists realize that man and the action and reaction of the universe is responsible for everything and doesn't mislead himself into thinking that someone cares. No longer will we sit back and accept fate without doing anything about it. Just because it says so in the chapter such and such, Psalm so-and-so, and that's that. The Satanist knows that praying does absolutely no good. In fact, it actually lessens the chance of success for the devoutly religious too. Often sit back complacently and pray for a situation which, if they were to do something about it on their own, could be accomplished much quicker. The Satanists shuns terms such as hope and prayer as their indicative of apprehension. If we hope and pray for something to come about, we will not act in a positive way which will make it happen. The Satanist, realizing anything he gets is of his own doing, takes command of the situation instead of praying to God for it to happen. Positive thinking and positive action add up to results. Just as the Satanist does not pray to God for assistance, does not pray for forgiveness for his wrongdoings. In other religions, when one commits a wrong, he either prays to God for forgiveness or confesses to an intermediary and asks him to pray to God for forgiveness for his sins. The Satanist knows that a praying does no good. Confessing to another human being like himself accomplishes even less and is furthermore degrading. When a Satanist commits a wrong, he realizes that it is natural to make a mistake. But if he is truly sorry about what he has done, he will learn from it and take care not to do the same thing again. If he is not honestly sorry about what he has done and knows he will do the same thing over and over and over, he has no business confessing and asking forgiveness in the first place. But this is exactly what happens. People confess their sins so that they can clear their consciences and be free to go out and sin again, usually the same sin. There are as many as different interpretations of God in the usual sense of the word as there are types of people. The images run from a belief in a God who is some vague sort of universal cosmic mind to an, I'm having trouble saying this word, anthropomorphic deity with a long white beard and sandals who keeps track of every action of each individual. But within the confines of a given religion, the personal interpretations of God differ greatly. Some religions actually go so far as to label anyone who belongs to a religious sect other than their own heretic. Even though the overall doctrines and impressions of the godliness are nearly the same. For example, the Catholics believe that the Protestants are doomed to hell simply because they do not belong to the Catholic Church. In the same way, many splinter groups of the Christian faith, as such the evangelical or the revivalist churches, believe that the Catholics are heathens who worship graven images. Christ is depicted in the image that most physiologically akin to the individual worshiping him. And yet Christians criticize heathens for the worship of graven images, and the Jews have always been given the devil's name. Even though the God in all these religions is basically the same, each regards way chosen by others as reprehensible, and to top it all, religionists actually pray for one another. They have scorn for their brothers of the right-hand path because their religions carry different labels, and somehow is animosity must be released. What better way than through prayer? What is surprisingly polite way of saying I hate your guts is a thinly disguised device known as praying for your enemy. Praying for one's enemy is nothing more than bargain basement anger, and of a decidedly shabby and inferior quality. And there has been much violent discrepancy as to the proper way in which to worship God. How many different interpretations of God can there be? And who is right? All devout white lighters are concerned with pleasing God as they might have the pearly gates open for them when they die. Nevertheless, if a man has not lived his life accordance with the regulations of his faith, he can the last minute call the clergyman to his deathbed for a final absolution. The priest or minister will then come running on the double to make everything right with God and see to it that his passport to the heavenly realm is in order. Yezidis, I don't know how to say that, sect of devil worshippers take a different viewpoint. They believe that God is all-powerful but also all-forgiving, and so accordingly feel that it is the devil whom they must please, as he is the one who rules their lives while they're on earth. They believe strongly that God will forgive all their sins once they have been given the last rites, that they feel no need to concern themselves with the opinion God may hold of them which they live. With all the contradictions in the Christian scriptures, many people currently cannot rationally accept Christianity the way it has been practiced all in the past. Great numbers of people are beginning to doubt the existence of God and in the established Christian sense of the word. So they have taken to calling themselves Christian atheists. True, the Christian Bible is a mass of contradictions, and what have been more contradictory than the term Christian atheist. If prominent leaders of the Christian faith are rejecting the past interpretations of God, how then can their followers be expected to adhere to a previous religious tradition? With all the debates about whether or not God is dead, is if he isn't, he had better have Medicare. The God you save may be yourself. That'd be another chapter for another time. The God you save may be yourself. I'll read that another time. But this is a really, really good religion I believe that I belong here. And they also encourage witchcraft. They don't actually say it in the Satanic Bible. Actually, they do. But I don't know what chapter that is right now. Excuse me. The Satanic Bible does preach about practicing witchcraft. Excuse me. But you gotta learn how to be careful how you use this witchcraft stuff. I'm gonna get going now. That's all I have to tell you guys for now. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Hail Satan.